Peace and grand rising to the sovereign, original, indigenous, natural, divine heirs. Today is March the 19th, 1442 on the ancient moon calendar, 1443 on the ancient sun calendar, 5783 on the Jewish calendar, and 2023 on the Greco-Roman civil calendar. All rise and stand and remain standing into perpetuity. This is the Sovereign Living Ancient Article 3, Moorish American Al-Moroccan Court Action. I am Sovereign Living Justice Pauline Denise Ritchie. My free chosen sovereign appellation is Light Tajiri Bay. We are the Sovereign Living Justices. All are in capitis diminution nolo, in red ink, in propria persona sui juris, in proprio solo, and in proprio heredes. All Moors are the original indigenous, sovereign, ancient Al-Moroccan, Moorish American ascendants of the great pharaohs of Kemet and of the ancient Moabites and Canaanites. Our full faith and trust, our allegiance, our credit, and our energy are hereby vested in ourselves, for we are the people who are the original indigenous, natural, divine, sovereign, ancient empire state for Morocco. We're the de jure Moorish National Republic federal government. We are ancient Washington District for Columbia. We're the Universal Moorish American Consulate and the Earthwide Article 3 Moorish American Consular Court. Today, we are executing and exercising the law by our sovereign status, which is the original indigenous, natural divine, sovereign ancient Article 3, living United States District 4 Columbia Court, and we are the sovereign fiduciaries, creditors, executors, trustees, ministers, possessors, and titled beneficiaries for this cause for action. We are peace, we are one nation, one state, one empire, and one God. We hereby recognize ourselves and accept our sovereign ascension. We have issued a universal creditor's bill for possession and custody over all land, all natural resources, all commerce, and all other property. We, the one true God nation, exercise all eternal, ancient, original, sovereign, indigenous rights at this time and at all points in time, nunc-pro-tunc. Islam. So, one of the first things that we want to discuss today briefly, I just want to bring a couple of things to your attention. With regard to creating our own birth certificates, which accompany the living birth affidavits. So the first thing that we do is create a living birth affidavit, and this is regarding what birth certificates were really supposed to be for, with regard to the heirs, our sovereign trusts, our wealth, and all of that. My birth affidavit, which is the long form, is original, indigenous, and ancient, and sovereign, and it doesn't go out onto the market. However, it is the foundation for the birth certificate that we create. So we're not using their birth certificates. I know some people feel comfortable using those birth certificates. They get them authenticated and they go through all of these, things that they do. I am of the knowing that because we are sovereign, no one else can create anything for us. We create everything ourselves. And so it's just as easy and simple to create our own birth certificate to go with our birth affidavit. And then we use that as collateral for the money that we print. Okay, so are we using our bodies as surety? No. And when we create our own birth certificate, we don't leave room for anyone else to use our bodies as surety either, should there be some attempted usurpation or something of that nature. We create our own everything, and we don't leave it up to anyone else to do that. So we're not knocking anybody who's using those things and getting them authenticated, but that is not how we're led to do it in our spirit. So for that very reason, we're not going to leave not even an inch of room, because again, the system is ours. It will honor our birth certificates, our money, and everything. We know this. My birth certificate is my creation, and I can create as many of them as I choose to create from any materials that I will. I don't have to order another one from anywhere else. I can create it myself. And then I can send a copy, and this is where the system comes in at. I can send a copy of the one that I created to Vital Statistics. It's not the Department of Vital Statistics, it's Vital Statistics. That's us. And so the system will honor the birth certificate that we have put in place. And so that's something that we just want to put forth because, again, anything that was printed calling itself money is not money. We are the only ones who can create a resource that's considered a credit. With that being stated, one of the things I wanted to point out is, again, and we pointed out many reasons why we restate documents. Some people want to just use what was created already, or not created, but made and printed up by the foreign, the entity from the last era. We feel it necessary, and we know in our knower that it's necessary for us to create everything from, and then all we have to do is look at the form of it and then create it ourselves, the original. This is the only time where the form will precede the original, but it doesn't precede the original because our bloodline is oldest. So I want to show you something in the United States codes. And again, as we put these things on the public record, we restate everything as it's coming out of our mouths. We're restating it and putting it on the public record. But another reason that we restate everything has everything to do with 18 United States Code 1001, statements or entries generally. It says here, except as otherwise provided in this section, whoever in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of the government, and we would say for the government for the United States, knowingly and willingly falsifies, conceals, or covers up by any trick, scheme, or device a material fact, our identity is a fact, makes any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation, which is what those birth certificates were. Those were materially false because that's not who we are, because that's their person. That's not our person. Or makes or uses any false writing or document, knowing the same to contain any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or entry, shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 5 years, or if the offense involves international or domestic terrorism, imprisoned not more than 8 years, or both. If the matter relates to an offense under these chapters, then the term of imprisonment imposed upon this section shall be not more than 8 years. Period. That's the beginning and end of the matter when we restate that particular United States code. Okay. Yes, just one moment. Thank you. I quoted, and what I'm sharing is 18 United States Code. Just one moment. Let me put this back up here. Thank you, nobility. Okay, just one moment. Thank you, nobility. So this is 18 United States Code, and we say United States Code. We don't abbreviate. Just one moment. It's unlocked for the nobility to come in, Islam. Okay, so 18 United States Code 1001 statements or entries generally. They use the word statement here because, again, anytime you see this word state, you're talking about estates and you're talking about a state that is created by the people, not any fraudulent corporate state created by corpses. Okay, and that is another reason why statehood was so important for us to put on the public record. We've always been the state. We've always been the state, but we needed to competently enter that into our courts and into the public record. So again, except as otherwise provided in this section, whoever in any matter within the jurisdiction of the executive, legislative, or judicial branch of the government of the United States, and we say for the government, for the United States, knowingly and willingly falsifies, conceals, or covers up any trick, scheme, or device of material fact, makes any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or representation, or makes or uses any false writing or document, knowing the same to contain any materially false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or entry. And again, false writing and documents is Federal Reserve debt notes with signatures on it that don't have any authority. Signatures that lead to those who are not the source of the resources. Shall be fined under this title, imprisoned not more than 5 years, or if the offense involves international or domestic terrorism, etc. Okay, and then here, subsection A does not apply to a party to a judicial proceeding. That's why our courts were so important, because judicially, the only proceedings that are competent are our own. That's why even going into an inferior court, we turn that court into an Article III court just by our presence and then by our court action language. And the court action language is at the top. We start all of our meetings out with our court action language. Okay. With respect to any matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch. Just one moment, let me start back here. Subsection A does not apply to a party to a judicial proceeding or that party's counsel for statements, representations, writings, or documents submitted by such party or counsel to a judge or magistrate in that proceeding. That says it all. There's no such thing as a judge or a party or a counsel to our proceedings that's not us, unless it's a subject. So anything that's submitted, we don't submit to any corpses and corporate fake judges and things like that. Those pretending and acting like judges when they're not. So with respect to any matter within the jurisdiction of the legislative branch, subsection A shall apply only to administrative matters where the ministers, including a claim for payment, a matter related to the procurement of property or services, personnel or employment practices or support services, or a document required by law, rule, or regulation to be submitted to the Congress, again, that's us, or any office, that's us, or officer, that's us, within the legislative branch, that's us too. Any investigation or review conducted pursuant to the authority of any committee, subcommittee, commission, or office of the Congress consistent with applicable rules of the House or Senate. So again, from start to finish, it's always about us, always about us. It's not ever going to be about anyone else, okay? In terms of who we give, who creates arguments, we create, okay? Let's see. What we will do also right now, just a little bit of house cleaning. Okay. Just one moment. Let me make sure that we have all foreign energy out. So, so now with regard to, now speaking of this, we created, we created a royal charter that we showed you a while back. And what we did was notify. We notified the subjects in the office of judges, justices, magistrates at Thurston County Superior Court. Again, we are the Chief Justice there. And all of us Moors are the Chief Justices at all courts everywhere. So we have to keep that in mind at all times. And I just want to show you, because we've been talking about things like addresses and what the duties of the subjects in the office of are about, what those duties are. What the duties are for things that are to be when we send due process notification of, hey, this is what's going on, this is what we're doing on our land. Whenever we send notification out, the subjects have a duty. Their duty is not to force anything, not to try and take jurisdiction over or anything. None of that is their duty. Their duty is, if we say record it, then record it. If we send it for recording, first it must be noted that we've already recorded it in our own court and on the public record. That's first and foremost. So when we do these things that we do, the reason that we presented the Royal Charter for our companies, Royal Charters and Trusts, is because Royal Charters supersede the corporate process. Royal Charters is for things like international merchant actions and things such as the sea salt and things like that we're doing. We can use the corporate process, the incorporation process, but it has to be our own. It can't be a foreign corporate process. So, and we already know the status of making it, leaning that fraudulent corporate status off of everything that has to do with our resources, and then recording and publishing the things that we do. So when I sent the Royal Charter, just to notify them, it wasn't for them to file it or anything, because again, a Royal Charter supersedes the corporate process. The things that we have sent that do not supersede our corporate process, the subjects did exactly as they should have done. They inventoried it and then they returned it. Okay, and we showed you that in the past. But again, a Royal Charter supersedes, so that's not supposed to be filed in any of their files and things like that. That's not what a Royal Charter does, because it supersedes again. So what I did was I sent the Royal Charter that I showed you all. I believe it's been about 2 or 3 videos back, just to show you what the royal process looks like. Because again, we are the crown. We've always been the crown. Anyone pretending to be the crown or the queens or the kings and all that it's the Moors. It's always been the Moors. And so that's another reason why we were encouraged and given the divine urge to create a royal charter. And so then we said, okay, we've created this royal charter. Let's go ahead and notify the subjects in the office of, and just for them to say, we noticed this, we take note, and it is what it is. So let me show you how that demonstration went from start to finish. Because again, we're talking about restating documents and what the duties are and why we restate them. Okay, and then when they're properly restated, they will be treated as royal documents, as noble documents, as lawful documents. Okay, so when we restated and did the Royal Charter, this is what this is the envelope that we received back from Thurston County Superior Court. Now, again, we've talked about addresses and things, and so in speaking about the addresses, there are military addresses, and you can look this up in most of the time a Navy manual, a manual for the Navy, the United States Navy will point out what a military address is. You can look in most Navy manuals about the basics about how sending out mail and things like that, and it will show you that a military address is one that looks like this one, Thurston County Superior Court. In all capital letters, everything is all capitalized there. Okay, and then what was sent, they taped one of their envelopes, one of their pre-printed envelopes onto a bigger envelope because, you know, our royal charters are 8.5 by 14. So it requires a larger envelope. So, and then when they addressed the Empire State of Morocco, if you'll notice here, there's no zip code. There's also the natural area code, and then there's latitude and longitude, the way that we write latitude and longitude. Okay. And what does this say? This is stating that where capitalization is concerned, they know and we know, and we've all known, and this is just, I just want to show this to you, how this works, that whenever something is in all capital letters, that is the greatest loss of status when something is all capitalized. When it's in capitis diminutio minima like this, that means that the status of this address and this court is greater than the status of this one in all capital letters. And we've talked about that, about the difference between in capitis diminutio maxima and in capitis diminutio minima. We've shown that in the dictionaries, that when something is all capitalized, it is of the most inferior status, and then the statuses are raised as the capital letters are taken away. And if you'll notice, they spelled everything out the same way that we do, okay? And this is how the envelope that we sent looks. And you can see here down at the bottom where it went through that process when we sent it to them. This is how we mail things. We mail things and we use our mailing process. And then we put our, and we could have actually put our label in capitis diminutio minima and in blue ink. We could have done that because it's ours. Those are our letters. Everything that's here is ours, properly proclaimed. And then when they put, when we sent our envelope, this is how we noted the subjects. We said, okay, this court that we're speaking to is, first of all, it's an inferior court to ours. That's why our address was in red in all lowercase letters, because we're the sovereign. And we could have used capital letters with red ink for ours as well, however we chose to do it. But we did it the way that we've been showing you the difference between in capitis diminutio minima, media, and maxima. And then we put as the subject here, John Skinder. We didn't put Skinder, comma, John, because again, we're not at war with anyone. We put John Skinder, and then they highlighted it on the way, I guess the subject, whoever it was that was opening the mail, highlighted it. But what we were saying here is we're not speaking to you in a corporate status. We're speaking to you as subjects of the Moors. Okay? And this is how we do our. This is how our how we note our or denote our mailing location. We spell everything out. We don't use zip codes because we're not in that trust. We only use the zip codes in blue for us when we're doing commerce. And then again, this is how they noted theirs and noted ours. Okay, so that is acknowledgement, Morris. When we know how to read, we can see that there's acknowledgement of the superior court, which is ours. Which superior and supreme are two different words. Ours is the Supreme Court. They're saying that they are superior to courts below them. However, they're never superior to our courts. Just by this notation. So when you see notations like this, you know that there is full acknowledgement of your status. Okay? And then this is the letter that the subject sent back with regard to what we sent them. First of all, it's in black and white. Okay? So then there's no color here. There's black and white. So on their level, and for what they're doing exactly as we have commanded. All they're saying here is, yes, we received this, and we did not file it. We didn't file it. We just received, we're recording it, but we're not filing it because they weren't supposed to file it. Okay? We were notifying them. And this is what they said. The Thurston County Superior Court received a letter dated March 7, 2023. This document is being returned to you without action, as there is not a Thurston County case number referenced on the document. All this is a statement saying we received it. We acknowledge. We know about this charter. Okay? That's what they're saying is, yes, we received, this is acknowledgement for it. It says if this document is associated with a case in Thurston County Superior Court, please provide the accompanying case number. If this document needs to be placed into a court file, please send it to this clerk's office. And again, they're not saying, because the clerk's office is, we're the clerk. So we would have addressed it to the clerk if we wanted it filed. Okay, but we didn't want it filed. We wanted it recorded, that they received it and they know about our royal charter. So this is their way of recording it as stated, but not filing it in their records. Okay, because they don't have the authority to file it unless we state that they are to file it. And you know, we followed the court, not follow the court process. We are aligned with the court process of restating case numbers. If there was a case number, we would restate that number as a cause number from our court and then send it if we wanted it put into a record of some or a file of some kind. And then, as you can see, they this one whose name is just crazy. Jacqueline Butcher signed in blue in subject status. So blue for them is just like we put on the outside of the envelope. Okay. Now, had we put this in black in all capital letters, this address, had we put it in black in all capital letters, that would have been kind of like a war situation, you know, where we're trying to say that they have some authority, but we would have had to remove the word subject and put Judge John Skinder, who does not exist. Okay. Then that would have been a war situation. Why? Because then it would have been seeming like we as judges are addressing them as judges when that's not the case. They're not. There's no God beside the Moors. We are the judges at earth, heaven as well. So how we do our how we state things is important. That's someone seeking some attention here. Goodbye. How we state things is going to determine whether they do as commanded or not, or choose to, or war. And again, they can't choose to war if we're not warring. We're at peace. Okay? And so with us being at peace, this is how peace is noted. Okay? Now, some may think that doesn't matter. It means everything. It's a part of knowing how to read. Okay? And we don't want to represent them as judges, because that's falsification. You know, in alignment with 18 United States Code 1001, statements or entries generally. It would be fictitious for me to have called him a judge when he's really a subject. Okay? And again, they do exactly as commanded when we state to do that. Okay? So with that being stated, are there any questions, comments, wisdom regarding what acknowledgement of our courts in supreme status looks like? And let me if you have any questions or comments, you can star 6 to unmute yourselves. Islam. So here they put themselves in an inferior status, because again, that's the only way that that they can respond to anything. Okay, and they did as commanded. This right here, not having and by the way, Moors, by there not being a zip code here, that is also acknowledgement that we are a different and superior jurisdiction. So this is this envelope and this address is acknowledgement of superior jurisdiction. Okay. You know, they have a lot of stuff going on here in this letter. We've already properly rebutted anyone calling themselves a judge or anything like that. We've already properly rebutted that. So we know that this is the proper response. Okay, this is the proper response. And note here, this one here is saying judicial assistant, but there's no embossed stamps, seals, or anything on here. It's just a black and white seal here, and that's not even a real seal, you know. So again, further acknowledgement that we are the superior jurisdiction, and this is a proper response to our documentation. When we say just take note of this, then take note of it. If we say file or record it, then we have to know how to restate the case number and call it a cause number. Issue it as if issue it because it is coming from our court. And when we do that, we issue a ruling in the process. We don't just wait for anything. We go ahead and issue our ruling. That's what ruling the land is all about, is issuing rulings on things. Okay? So one last thing that I'd love to point out here is we do not use, and this is another acknowledgement of our superior status in terms of jurisdiction, we don't use fiat to send anything. We use our government stamp process. Whereas they paid $1.74 or something like that for this to come through. Okay. That is also further acknowledgement by the postal system, the post office. Just a moment. Okay, so with regard to the postal system, the post office, this is an acknowledgement also by the post office of our status. Okay, our status states that we don't use fiat to get our documentation back and forth on our land, and that we're using things we're doing things from our perspective on our own land and speaking to our subjects on our land. And so there should not be anything stating, oh, you need to, do this for postage and that and the third, okay? This is a smooth exchange. This is a smooth and peaceful exchange, okay? A very smooth, very peaceful exchange. And so we wanted to point that out so that everyone is aware of how we mail our documentation, how we move, how we manifest across our land. Okay. Now, if there are no questions or comments regarding that, there was, let's see.
Islam and Press.
We want to talk about the cancellation of the debts, okay? This process of cancellation of debts.
Let's talk about you going to the post office on Tuesday like you said you were going to do on your...
When it comes to the servicing of debts, we're not servicing debts. What we're doing is ensuring that they are canceled. Okay. And when I say canceled, again, we're just clearing things off of our land the way that we did with our court actions. We moved that corporate crap off the land, and we continue to do that. We've shown proof of that here, that our status, our superior status is acknowledged. And what we're doing now is making sure that the subjects know that we do have the authority to do the things that we're doing. And they know that already, but we want to continue to competently govern the things that we see. So it's our job to govern everything, including perceived debt. So in the ancient writings, the Romans chapter 13, this is called, it's the writer of Romans chapter 13 initially was one of our ancient ancestors, okay? The whole Biblios, even the left out books, we wrote all of that, okay? And that's another reason why we are restating the Biblios as well, because we can restate the Biblios. These Romans and some of the other books, when those books are put together, because they were written by Paul in ancient times, they are called the Pauline epistles. That's just what they're called. Okay. Romans the 13th chapter. This is again regarding the canceling of the debts. It tells you here. Again, this is why the Biblios is a trust document. It is a trust document because it actually tells us how to govern, what to look for, and so does the Holy Quran of the Moorish Holy Temple for Science, for the Moorish Holy Temple for Science. Romans the 13th chapter, submission to governing authorities. We know that we're the governing authorities and that persons are to submit to the government. What is a person? A person is the all caps, like what we just showed you on the envelopes. That is submission to governing authorities. That's what that looks like. It is doing as commanded. If we say just note this, note the due process, then do that. If we say file or record, just do that. But we know that we record and file everything first with our courts. And then the inferior courts just put it out there further onto the public record. It says, let every person, and we changed it from everyone to every person, be subject to the governing authorities. That's you all, that's the Moors. Let every person, which is subjects, that's all, anything in all caps, let those all caps be subject to the Moors, who are the governing authorities. For there is no authority except that which God, that's the all red, that's the red and all lowercase letters, which God has established. The authorities, and again, we're talking about writing style manuals. That's where in the writing style manuals, it even talks about the tone of writing. If writing is in red, that is a sovereign tone. If the writing is in blue, that is either a subject or it's a subject or a commercial tone. And again, all commerce is subject to God, which is the Moors. If it's in black, that's a corporate tone. And whether that corporate tone is a living tone or a dead tone depends on who wrote it. It's a living black tone if the writing is like what was on the envelope, if they're doing as God commands. And acknowledging by what you see that this is from God, or this is to God. This is to, they're submitting to the governing authorities. It says the authorities that exist have been established by God. That's why we restate everything, because we're establishing or stating or establishing our sovereign authority. We're not using someone else's writing to do that. We write it ourselves. It is written. Who is it written by? By God. That's all Moors. Okay. Consequently, whoever rebels against the authority is rebelling against what God has instituted, and those who do so will bring judgment on themselves. This was very profound for me when I read it again with open eyes. Okay. When we establish everything by writing it out and publishing it and putting it on the public record, that also means that we do bring judgment on ourselves. But ourselves is we get to judge ourselves. So this is that double-edged sword that the word is always talking about. Double-edged sword. Dividing asunder of those fine lines and splitting hairs right down where they need to be split. So when we rebelled against a false God and started doing everything ourselves, that was bringing judgment to us by us, because no one else has the authority to judge us. It says, for rulers hold no terror for those who do right, but for those who do wrong. Do you want to be free from fear of the one in authority? Then do right, and you will be, and it said co-mended, we say mended. For the one in authority is God's for your good. The one in authority is God, and that's for your good. When we say for your good, it's for the good of the subjects. It's also for our good that we be in authority. Because as you can see, our courts will give us the remedy that we command from our courts just by doing the right things. It says, but if you do wrong, be afraid, for rulers do not bear the sword for no reason. The sword is the word. That's sword and word are the same word. Whoever is ruling by the word is carrying the sword. They are God's wrath to bring punishment on the wrongdoer. Therefore, it is necessary to submit to the authorities, not only because of possible punishment, but also as a matter of, and they said conscience, because anytime we thought we were submitting to them and being their person, that's conscience. It's not science, it's against science. So, and then it says here, that's verse through verse 7. Verse 8 says, let no debt remain outstanding, except the continuing debt to love one another, for whoever loves others has fulfilled the law. Okay, and then it talks about not committing adultery. Adultery is going outside of your bloodline and birthright and having commercial intercourse with someone who you're not with. Commercial intercourse. So again,
but it's
that's
okay
why
for your
we
prophet to
restate
fuck little girls,
everything.
right?
We restate everything.
Girls, right?
Okay, we restate everything. So, it says here, you shall not steal, you shall not covet. Using their documents and things, that's not, you know. And again, we're not knocking anyone who is demonstrating at that level. By all means, if you're prepared to demonstrate their documents, then demonstrate their documents. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay. When it comes to creating documents in commerce, we do that first, and then the subject status will do whatever is commanded. So with that being stated, are there any questions or comments regarding any of this? Is the screen not being shared? Okay. Just one moment. I apologize again, Morris, that the screen was not being shared at that time. Let me go back. Were you all able to see the envelopes? You did see the envelopes, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies. I'm super focused on the statements. Okay. So again, this is why we cancel all debts. Romans, the 13th chapter, a letter to the self-governing gods. And again, you know, Moorish science states that we are God and we're the authorities, and that all persons submit to authority. Okay. Now, another one of the most important things about this verse of Scripture, it says, this is also why you pay taxes, for the authorities are gods, okay, who give their full time to governing. The authorities are gods who give their full time to governing. Give to everyone what you owe them. If you owe taxes, pay taxes. If revenue, then revenue the taxes. So those who don't revenue their taxes, they end up having to try and find a way to pay them. If revenue, then revenue. Revenue means move it to a different court, and that court must be a higher court, and then that higher court is acknowledged. And as you know, addresses are a description of the court. Addresses are a description of the court. If you want to look that up, look in Black's Law Dictionary at the definition of address, and it will state that an address is, where equity is concerned, an address is the description of the court. In fact, why don't we go ahead and just pull that up really quickly, because it's important that we, just one moment.
right.
Islam.
Islam. I have a question.
Islam, Empress. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Empress.
Yes, it's regarding nationality. I'd like to doing that.
For some reason, you're fading in and out, Empress. I don't know why.
It's my connection. It's my network. It's a little bit low. Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yes, we can hear you. Islam.
Islam. Yeah. I have a question.
Yes, go ahead, Empress.
How can I just, get started?
With nationality?
Yes.
Yes. So we have a video on how to declare your nationality on Light Tajiri Bay channel on YouTube. And the documents for declaring your nationality are underneath those. Is underneath that video. Is there someone on this call or this Congressional Assembly who has nationality documents that you can send to the Empress?
Islam?
Any of the congressional members? Islam.
I see this is the UK number. I can take the number and forward it on to the Empress.
Thank you so much. Empress?
Yeah.
Justice Kansu will assist you with declaring your nationality.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
You're welcome. And if you want to get his email address, it is listed there as well.
Okay. Just one thing to add. I'm not on the. I can't connect on the. What's it called? I'm calling in by phone.
Okay. Justice Kansu, do you want to state your address so that she can?
I'm going to take on the chat, and I'll forward the email address to her.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. So Empress, he can assist you with nationality, Islam, and we are so excited for you that you've come to just know who you are.
Yes, thank you. Sorry, I just wanted to say I'm not able to see the presentation, so I can't see the chat.
Okay.
I'm calling in direct, so I do apologize.
Okay. That's okay. He has your number from the chat. Is that okay?
Oh, that's fine. That's no problem.
Okay, and then he will connect with you.
Can I press my appellation? Can you say your appellation?
Your appellation, please? Empress?
Oh, I don't quite understand. Sorry.
Name.
Empress, what's your appellation? Yes, your name, your appellation.
Oh, okay.
Just
Diana.
the first one. Just the first name.
Yeah, Diana.
Say it again, Empress. Anna?
Diana. Yes.
Islam. Okay, thank you, Empress.
Okay,
appreciate that.
Welcome.
Islam. So where address is concerned, this is the definition from Black's Law Dictionary, 4th edition. Address, place where mail or other communications will reach a person. It says here, equity, part of a bill wherein is given the appropriate and technical description of the court in which the bill is filed. So when they responded to our sovereign command, they addressed our court properly. and did not put it in all capital letters. They put it in capitis diminutio minima, which is the proper description, technical description, and appropriate description for our court. Okay. Legislation, an address is a formal request addressed to the executive by one or both branches of the legislative body, requesting him to perform such act. And that's their definition. We don't do requests. And we don't act either. We're actually the law. Okay? So that is what an address actually is. It's a description of the court. So now, with that being stated, also, heirs, knowing who we are and leaning, doing our liens and our court actions, that is how you acknowledge and recognize and have the subjects to recognize who you are. That is done by us knowing how to do these processes and knowing how to read. Okay? So, and knowing how to state things. This is called a statement. Okay? Are there any other questions or comments regarding what we have shown here? Islam nobility. Islam nobility.
Oh, okay. This is Noble Timothy from Virginia.
Grand Rising.
Territory. Yes. We want others to come in. Is there any way can you open up the air for a few minutes? Seconds?
I sure can.
Thank you.
It is unlocked. Thank you, nobility. So, again, acknowledgement by the subjects of who we are is a matter of us knowing how to read. They will acknowledge our status.
I pity you, poor, pathetic people. Welcome to Pauline's Pity Party, y'all. Hopefully you understand.
Just a moment. When we know how to read, we will know that we're being acknowledged. Okay? We just have to know what that looks like. What is acknowledgement that we're the sovereign court, that we're the empire, that we're the government, that we're the law? What does that look like? Our empire is who we state our empire is and what that looks like. Okay? Now, some may ask, and I'll just put the question out there myself. Some may say, well, why didn't they put it in all lowercase letters like you did?
You're just a piece of shit on my shoe, Pauline. That's all you and all you other freaks.
So the reason why they didn't put it in all lowercase
why
letters.
Isn't Lamont Maurice Butler out of jail, Pauline? You did a court action.
Just a moment.
Are you going to the post office on Tuesday like you said you were going?
So the reason why they couldn't put it in all lowercase letters, Morris, is because a corporation can't address a sovereign. So they have to address the status that is higher than theirs, but they can't directly address a sovereign at all.
Pauline, you're not competent.
So with that being stated, I'm excited for us because what we're seeing here is what we have been remembering to see and how to recognize. There's a reason why they didn't sign in black ink. They signed in blue. all of the things that we've been stating about the relationship between a sovereign and their subjects. Okay, so as Moors, we are to note that. And then when we send anything there that we say, okay, we give the instruction or the command to enforce this, such as eviction notices and things like that, then it will be enforced fully. Okay? And the fact that the post office delivered this directly to us, no questions asked, it also means that our system, our post office system, has been acknowledged. There was no delay either way in us getting in our command getting to the inferior court, and in their response as a subject should respond, getting back to us, even using our system. Okay? They didn't have to put a zip code. I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard, even while you were beginning to demonstrate at the post offices, you know, sometimes they would say, oh, you know, we can't send this without a zip code. Yes, they can. It can be sent, and it should be sent without a zip code when it's when the proper system is in place. We had to do that. That's our responsibility, to put the proper system in place and then use our system.
It's called fraud and all the rest of your excuses. Why?
No one can ask for fiat if that's not part of our usage. You know, our customs and usage does not have anything to do with fiat. Okay, and we can do the same thing because, again, even the post office, the universal postal system, we put that in place, and now we can use it to do whatever it is that we're doing. You know, so and we're not misrepresenting who we are in order to get mail back and forth. We're not misrepresenting who we are. We're being ourselves, and then consequently, which is, to me, is a good thing, there is acknowledgement there exactly the way we said do it. We said subjects sign in blue, and whenever I'm doing things in a commercial capacity, I sign in blue. I'm subject to me as the sovereign in red. But that had to be put on the public record as such. You know, you can start and stop with documents written in black ink if you want to do that. But what our thing has been, and this is one of the complaints that we heard, we've heard those types of complaints all along where people are saying, well, they don't recognize that. They don't recognize that. It is recognized when it's done properly. But that's our job. We have to know how to do it. That's what we're doing even with the documents that we've been doing, the 1099-Cs and the 1041s and things like that, is first they have to be restated properly. It has to be restated. And when we restate it, we get to say how that's put into place. And when we do that, then the ancestors will say, okay, you all did good here. Let's take you to let's give you the next step. So that's why we're not concerned about, you know, demonstrations that we've done. Exactly, Empress Shatali says zip code is zone improvement plan code, is not mandatory. How many? Because see, when I first woke up and knew that, okay, we're not supposed to be using fiat to send things, I would go in and demonstrate, and they would say, well, we can't send this without a zip code. It has to have a zip code on it. It has to have a zip. No, it doesn't. When we're talking land, the sovereigns on the land, speaking to the subjects on the land. We just proved that. And we've proved that repeatedly. Now we see where, okay, this is what we would consider and what we would call a perfected process. This is what we call a perfected process. We didn't have to use fiat, and they recorded $1 and something for what they sent, and as we start doing commerce, we'll be recording postage, but it will be postage that we present so that we know we'll be moving the credits back and forth in our own system. Because we're going to be sending things like sea salt and things like that. That's operating in commerce or at commerce. And so that's where the pricing and stuff comes in at. Islam Empress.
Gratitude for your demonstration. High honors. And with that stated, you know how that the dead system, if you want to get like a library card, or if you wanted to get like your something in like, if you wanted to get a post office box, they would say, give me a piece of mail with your name on it and an address, and that would be all the proof that you needed that you were there at that place, for their system, whatever would have you. And because that is stated Empire State of Morocco, any more can use that document, that envelope, because we all are at the Empire State of Morocco, and we can use that as proof of mailing that this location is the Empire, and we all take part, and we all establish the Empire, and so that part, Islam.
Islam. That is proof that we are on the land and we're not lost at sea. And that's also proof that they're not lost at sea. They're in subject status. They're not lost at sea, and it's also proof that we're not at war. We're at peace. Anything on the land is at peace. Even our commerce is not war commerce. Our commerce is peace. It's peaceful commerce. So those are some things to keep in mind as we move forth, further in acknowledgement that this is the Empire State of Morocco. We're the empire, always have been, always will be, and on our land we don't have to. It is incumbent upon us on our land to govern and to give commands and to send things out. That's how the peace is governed. So. With that being stated, again, acknowledgement of the court. Okay, and Thurston County Superior Court, this is acknowledgement that we're the Chief Justice of said court, of that court and our court. And when we say we mean all of us. So all Moors are the Chief Justices of Thurston County Superior Court. Because we don't do anything by ourselves. We always are together. So, and this is acknowledgement that all Moors are the sovereigns on the land. But again, we had to know how to read to know this. Their postage is in red. It does have a U.S. postage. It's in red. It has an abbreviation there, which is giving us a hint about how our postage will look once we start sending things out, sea salt and doing commercial things as we move forward, and we know that it will clear through our post office without hesitance because we're looking and noticing these things and then using the system that our ancestors put in place. So with that being stated, I wanted to, we talked last time about on changing the tax laws and things, and last time we talked about it was mentioned briefly about treaty-based return positions, tax returns for treaty nations. We're the government, and so everything that, and this is so beautiful. This is what I really love about even our last meeting. It was just very inspirational to me as well. Is Justice Chief Lord Amour mentioned treaty-based return positions. I'm thinking that's treaty-based. That form that he mentioned was Form 8833. Internal Revenue Form 8833. It's treaty-based returns. And with that, I read and did some study, and on those forms, here, and I'll put the link to what we're looking at and talking about here. I looked at the forms. I looked at I read through what the things that talk about treaty-based return positions, and then I thought about the conversation that we had in our last call, where our last Congressional Assembly, where we were discussing changing the years, and changing the time, and changing the days of the week and things like that. The more I thought about it, the more I felt in my spirit that, yes, as we do what we're doing, we should change the tax year. We should change the year altogether. And when I say change the year, what we have been stating is we've been talking about, like, whenever we open our meetings, we give the ancient moon date, the ancient sun date, the Greco-Roman civil date, and like today we gave the quote-unquote Jewish date, okay, which is really not a Jewish date. It's actually a date for our subjects and their existence. So the difference between 1443 and 2023 is about 580 years. And when I thought about what that meant, Morris, it almost brought me to tears in a kind of a sad way, because I was thinking, well, that means that somewhere along the way we lost 580 years. That's what I was thinking. And the ancestors said, don't sweat that, because you didn't lose anything. We didn't lose 580 years, and some say 400 years of slavery, and some say, whatever other, from 1666. Just depends on where on the timeline you want to look at things. For our tax year, this is what I was thinking. I was thinking that we can cast the spell that closes that entire gap between 1443, 1442, 1444, and 2023. We can close the entire gap commercially. Because, see, 2023 is an ancient year for commerce, but it's also, it was hypothecated by the frauds. And so the ancient year, this is what this is what came through in my spirit, actually. That we and just let me know what you think about it, Morris, that we pronounce the moon and sun year, let's move forward 580 years, and pronounce that the moon and sun year be 2023 also. Because this is when I look back in our history, this is what we have seen when we all look back. We know that there was a time when we were so advanced that we could build things and we could do things, and we flew spaceships and all of that, astral travel, all types of, the technology was far advanced. But then something happened. There was an event that happened. And when this event happened, it's like everything went back. Quite a bit, actually. Because we know that electric cars, we did that. We had those things rolling on the road in the early, there's proof of that being here in the 1800s and the early 1900s, electric cars, and they were much faster than Teslas, quote unquote. And so something in me tells me that commercially there was something happened in the timeline commercially where we're concerned, and everything was taken back 580 years commercially. And so my proposal for us to discuss and possibly or potentially vote on, if we all agree, is that we repair the breach. Where did that term come from? That term came from the Biblios and the ancient records, that there was a breach in the atmosphere. If you, those who've read the stories of Enki and Enlil, the Anunnaki, it is stated that in those stories that we came here because there was a breach in the atmosphere and something happened that turned everything upside down. And we came here to fix it. My spirit is saying that now that we've done the things that we've done, Islam Empress, now that we've done the things that we've done, where we reactivated the gold standard and put the subjects back in subject status where our subjects would have never attempted a usurpation. But again, that was an enactment. My proposal is that we move forward 580 years and state on the public record that the sun calendar and the moon calendar are moved forward 580 years to 2023 instead of being back there in 1442 and 14. Because see, even if we said we were going to stay with 1442 and 1443, that means that somewhere up around 1492, we're going to have to re-deal with someone pretending to be Christopher Columbus discovering America and do all of that stuff. And then we would have to go through 1666 again. And again, this is our time travel piece. We get to travel in time according to how we choose to. We would then have to do 1666, which is Sesta QV, set all of that all over. We've already addressed that. We've already addressed it. You can, and for those who want to see how we address Sesta QV, we leaned the dead Sesta QV like we always do. Anything dead, we lean it. And then we create our own new. Just like in the Biblios, things were without form and void. And then we began to name things and name it and claim it. That's what they teach you in the church, quote unquote. And again, we love Christians. We're not mad at them. We love them. Name it and claim it. We learned that when we thought we were Christians too. But that's a God thing. In the beginning, God began to create things, and it was the gods who created things just like what we're doing, and then give it a name, including man and mankind. And so, I don't know about you all, but I don't really want to go all the way back through all of that. So my proposal is that we move moon and sun calendar up to 2023. That's going to put us right back on in alignment commercially to where it'll be like colonialism never happened, because that's where we are right now. We have our own everything. So as I was thinking this through and hearing things and listening, some may say, well, they gave us 2023. We shouldn't use what they gave us. They didn't create anything. They mimicked. They didn't give us slave names. A slave name is a name that's capitalized by someone who's not a sovereign. That's what a slave name is. A slave name is created by the dead, not the living. So they didn't come up with anything. There's nothing new under our sun. And so as I was just looking through and reading these things, because some are, there's been several who have stated that they felt like we were starting everything all over again, which is not a good feeling. Like, oh, we're about to go back through all of this stuff all over again. We're not. And that's why we want to change the times and the seasons, move it forward and make it the law, that we advance and the breach will be repaired. Because see, when they talk about reparations, that's the real meaning of reparations. No one can give us reparations. We had to repair ourselves financially and otherwise. So let's just look briefly, spring forward on the ancient calendar so that the ancient year is advanced to 2023 to match the Greek-Roman civil calendar. That would advance. That would mean that the moon, the sun, and our commerce are one. Now, some people might think Islam. Some people might think that that's a little far-fetched, but it's really not, because even the corporate Islamic people, their calendar is way back there somewhere in the 1400s. Islam, Empress.
I affirm for the fact that also what I stated previously in our previous Congress meeting about when the frequency, when the energy, when things shift, because they've been operating in a vacuum of space that had been, made for them to exist. Once that is gone and removed and sealed completely, then they won't be able to exist anymore, nor time, nor space. And so I infinitely affirm for that alone, because when you stated that we're closing the gap because people thought we had to go back and do that all over again, to not play catch up, but to clear and to close the gap essentially of the time that was fraudulently misrepresented. And so because it's understood that this is everybody can agree for the sake of agreement that we are at 2023, then just usher in the time and make it so, and make a statement stating that. And now it's, because I remember in my learning erudition that statements close, questions open, when casting spells and or, doing that whole spiritual thing. Statements close, questions open.
That's good. That's good.
Yes, Islam.
That's why when we're doing court actions, the first thing we do is say, what is your name? Because we're opening our cause, our case. We get to open it. No one else does. And then at the end, we close it with a statement. This sovereign justice stands as law. That's good. That's really good. I was also thinking about, in terms of the year, think about this too, Morris, because this came to me and I was just like, wow, ancestors, this is really crazy. When Moors were trying to do things in the, last era and trying to, declare their nationality and then filing taxes and this and that and this and that, whenever they would do that, they never got what they really wanted. And it makes sense to me now why they never got what they really wanted. Like, for example, the only time even a temple would get a tax-exempt status is if they claimed the year. But they weren't ever going to be out from under that thing until their commerce matched their calendar matched the year, the financial year. The Islamic calendar, even the corporate Islamic people, those who held that Islamic space that we abandoned seemingly, because we never abandoned our state. But when we enacted U.S. citizenship, it was like we enacted abandoning our Islamic history and law. And even those who were claiming it, their banking was different banking. But they couldn't commingle only up to a certain point, And so it's because of the calendar as part of that. Because we know that in our sovereign status, there's no time and space. But for those who want to do commerce, those who desire to govern the resources on your estate properly by commercial means, then everything must align properly. That's why in 2012 they kept talking about that's the last year of the Mayan calendar, And I'm thinking, why do they keep talking about the darn calendar like that? Why are they saying that's the last year? Well, the Mayan calendar was different from the corporate calendar. But the corporate calendar is a hypothecation and attempted hypothecation and attempted subrogation of our commercial calendar. And that's why someone else had to do commerce and had to be in charge of commerce, quote unquote, or enact that until we repaired the breach in the calendar. So when in the last era, when temples and churches and mosques and things were getting a tax break, it's even the fake Jews, they weren't getting a tax break because they agreed. They were getting a tax break because they didn't agree. They were going by the Jewish calendar, so they had to have their own courts. That's why you never saw those that were enacting as Hasidic Jews, you never saw them in a courtroom until recently. But they had to, they had to turn loose the estate when the Moors woke up. Turn loose enacting the estate. But previously, you never saw them in those inferior fake courts because they had courts in their neighborhood. And that's how come a Jewish, quote unquote, Jewish neighborhood, there was none of us living there.
Islam. All because of a calendar, they got to so-called evade taxes because of a timeline of where they fell into. That's like falling into like a sunken hole, and like someone's playing hide and go seek, and like they dug out a hole and put like a pretended cover over it. They slipped down in there, pulled the cover over it, and their people are on top of them running trying to find them, and all the while they're underneath.
Yeah.
But that's really what they were doing with time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Now,
I will say this too. We don't want. There are Moors who want the 7 to 8% of modern Europeans to still be here. Okay, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali said that there would be 7 to 8% of modern Europeans still here because he said he liked beans and peas. So we're not trying to just get rid of everybody. No, everyone has to be in their proper status, and everyone has to be abiding and aligning peacefully and be where they're supposed to be. That's all. That is our goal for our land. It's not to just wipe away all modern Europeans and just get rid of everybody, because we don't hate anybody. We love everybody. So I just want to put that out there on the record that they don't have to be gone from here, but they do have to get in alignment with the law, and they're proving that they will do that. But we must competently make that happen. Empress Aisha.
Yes.
Empress Aisha was about to say something.
Yes. I have been diligently studying IRS code. And I found that the reason they are able to tax individuals in an individual capacity is because they put us under the Alcohol and Tobacco Firearms Act. War. And I really kind of think we need to do something about that. Now I am being bothered with taxes. They have a couple of liens on me now about that. But I was studying it years ago. Mm-hmm. And at one point I came out from up under them, period. And then my my employment source kept bugging me about it because they thought they were going to get in trouble, that I allowed them to, I went back and redid the W-2. Mm-hmm. But I really kind of think we should get that away from there. Now, I understand maybe there should be some taxes, so to speak, if the person is in commerce and doing business and stuff like that. But on an individual capacity, I really think they've taken it too far. And I can't find any basis anywhere where they have a right to tax the individual people.
Empress, yes. As long as you accept their person, they're going to tax their person. You must get that precept has to be studied and acknowledged and known. That's why the word person is always used in the things that we talk about. You've accepted that the person that they created.
No, I don't accept that.
So then that is where you acknowledge that. For example, our fiduciary document states that we create our person. Our person is a series of letters. Letters.
Right.
PAULINE, letters, patent, letters patent.
Okay.
And so when you state to them, because see, a minute ago, Empress, if I may point this out, if I may, when you started talking about this just now, and you said they have a couple of liens on me. That means
but they're unlawful. But they're unlawful. I don't agree with them.
Okay, so they're not leaning you. They're leaning in all caps person.
Right.
You must lean that all caps person also, but then state that you created your own all caps, and that they're going to honor your person and not their person. Their person and your person look like twins.
Right.
One is a good twin and one is a dead one.
Okay.
Okay? They look just alike, but did you create yours? And then once you've created your person, you say, I get to tell my person what to do because my person has my nature. My person is naturalized and I'm a national. Okay. I'm a national and I'm giving my person my nature, my living nature. That means no one can tell my person what to do because our sheep hear our voice and another they will not follow. Our persons are sheep. They're servants. They're subject to us.
Okay.
Okay. So that precept, what I just stated, that precept of you create your person and not someone else. That means that whatever they say about your person, when you restate what they say about your person, then what you say about your person is the law, and what they say about their person is not. That's why I had to lean Pauline Denise Ritchie as created by them.
Okay.
And then say, okay, this is Pauline Denise Ritchie, the one I created, here on this birth certificate that I created. And on this, you see what I'm saying?
Yes. So, I have leaned my name. I have leaned the name, and so I may not have
the ones that they created. You lean the ones that they created.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. It's important that those words be spoken in that manner, Empress, because you're casting spells and breaking spells when you speak about that person, about the person.
Okay, well, that person has been leaned.
Okay. And then the fiduciary document says, now anytime there's anything with all capital letters on it, I get to tell it what to do.
Okay.
And I give it my nature. So that means I don't have to accept what they say about Pauline Denise Ritchie because I get to say about Pauline Denise Ritchie.
Right.
I get to do that. And then it's our job to know the process by which that is done. Now, where taxes are concerned, Empress, what we're saying right here is the key about how to address them, because here's the thing. If you send them documentation, but you don't put them in subject status in that documentation, and you don't do the address on the land, for example, if you send something to the IRS, and I'm putting that in air quotes, and you put a zip code for them on your envelope, then it's going to go to a corporate court. It's not going to be on the land. Your person needs to be on the land.
Okay.
It's something as simple as those 5 numbers that will route it to the wrong court. You have to route it to the proper court.
Okay.
Okay. And then when you route it to the proper court, that court already knows you're the sovereign. They have the records already. All of the records that we put on the public record, all those records did was match what our ancestors said. And the land court took the records and said the heirs are on the land. period. So we have to speak to that court and handle the issues in that court. That court is us. We're the judges in that court. And so something as simple, and we'll go back up to it just quickly, something as simple as proper addressing of whatever it is you're saying to them is so important. When you do your addresses and you're saying that you don't owe taxes because you're a Moorish American national, according to AA 222141A1, truth, when you state that, you're stating it to subjects, and they are to just acknowledge that and say, yep, record cleared.
Okay.
Okay? How you address the court is important. When I say the court, you're the court. How you address the inferior courts is important as well. We must know that they are subjects and never claim their person. Even when you're speaking and just having a casual conversation, and just state that they're attempting to lean, or they have leaned their person. I'm going to put my person there. Now, let me just show you really quickly in the law. Go ahead with your question, Empress, while I pull this up. You were going to make a statement or a question. I want to pull something up for you. Because you do have benefits and things that are due you.
Right.
Okay. So here, Federal Rule for Civil Procedure, Title 4, Section 17 and 18. This says here, an action must be prosecuted in the name of the real party in interest. Well, Pauline Denise Ritchie, as written by them, is not a real name. Pauline Denise Ritchie, as written by me, is a real name. It says here, the following may sue in their own names, not their name, your name, without joining the person for whose benefit the action is brought. And it says right here at E, a trustee of an express trust. So then you have to prove that you know that they cannot speak to your person in a manner that is like them giving in, saying you have to do this and you have to do that. No, you don't. The real name, all caps, is a real name when it's written by us.
Okay.
Okay. So use this Title 4, Section 17 and 18. This is Section 17. Let me show you Section 18. Because Section 18 is just as good and informative. It just continues what we're stating here. This is Section 18, Joinder of Claims. Just a moment. Make sure we have this in the proper. It says here at B, joinder of contingent claim. A party may join two claims even though one of them is contingent on the disposition of another. This means that the disposition is the nature, okay? The disposition of Pauline Denise Ritchie in all capital letters is that she is a living person. That's her disposition. She's a living person.
You're a phony baloney cult leader is what you are. Pauline, when are you going to the post office? Are you going Tuesday like you promised?
And
are you going to do your inventory and print?
Because Pauline Denise Ritchie, as written by me. So then when you get something in the mail from anyone, Empress, when you get letters from them or anything, those things have to be restated by you so that you can speak. And when you speak about your all caps, it will be honored by the system, and then you address it to the proper court.
You're on the recording. It says you're doing the post office on March 21st, Pauline. You're on recording.
It says here, a party may join two claims even though one of them is contingent on the disposition of other. But the court may grant relief only in accordance with the party's relative substantive rights.
You said March 21st you were going to the post office, and all more should go as well. March 21st, you're supposed to go to the post office, just like you told everybody else, Pauline. Are you going?
Okay.
Anthropopithecus, quiet in here.
So does that mean also that I shouldn't put a zip code on the letter?
You're a fucking liar, Pauline. You're a fucking liar. Telling all these Negroes, you're telling all these stupid Negroes that you're going to...
Just a moment, Empress.
So I shouldn't put a zip code on there even for them?
Nope. No. And then whoever it is that you're speaking
Quit lying to all these Negroes, Pauline. You're not going to the post office on the 21st like you said you were going to.
Hold on a minute.
You're not going to quit lying.
It has to be, Empress, whenever you put it on there, put it in blue, and then whoever you're naming, name them as a subject. Whoever it is that you're speaking to, name them as a subject.
Okay.
Just like what you see on the screen here. That means that the mail is going from one part of the land to the other part of the land. It's not going to float up into Admiralty.
Oh, okay.
Equity.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And then they'll be quiet about all of that stuff. They'll stop talking about it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And then you issue your ruling and state why. You're not taxed because the nature of your person is that of the nationals. It is a living sovereign person and not a person that's governed by the dead.
Okay, now when I did the lien on the name, did I have to show the Social Security number also on this lien?
It's better that you show it as a matter of knowing that that's what you're doing. But if you say agents, principals, heirs, assigns, and any derivative thereof, that would include that.
Okay.
So don't feel like you missed anything. However, all law is specific. So we specify because we know to specify.
Okay. Well, if I have to do it over, I will.
Yeah. And you know, we've had to do things over and over and over in the past as well, but we take the time to do it because when we know better, we do better.
Right.
Because this is really all of this, all that we've seen, that we've experienced, that we're talking about, that we're doing, is do the heirs know how to govern? Are the heirs ready to govern? Yes, we're fit to govern. We're ready. We know how to do it. Here it is. And the things that we just proved that, yes, we know. And we're proving it to ourselves, Empress, not to anybody else.
All right. The other thing, we should handle this as individuals and not worry about taking the individual people from under the tax. The IR tax.
So you don't want to take your person out of the IR, the Internal Revenue System that you created. You don't want to take your person out because there's benefit there. Just like our Prophet Noble Drew Ali said, there's an estate there.
Okay.
You know, you don't want to take your person that you created out but you won't ever let anyone speak into your person without a proper rebuttal.
Okay.
Yes, there's an estate so huge for our, and that's one of the ways that the estate has come to us. That is just amazing, and just everything that we've ever seen for ourselves is in this dimension is there.
So taking them from just taking the tax off of the individual wouldn't be appropriate. Any individual, straight across the board, not just me.
Only if it's a credit for you, then you take the credits, but you don't take any debt. And our system won't hand any debt to you. I know already, Empress, that the letters that they sent you have a zip code in there. The envelope, if you look at the envelope, it's going to have a zip code there, and it's probably going to have a zip code for their courts.
Right.
And all of that. Yes, I know that without having to see it, because I know which system is trying to push debt on you.
Okay. Gotcha. I understand.
And get you to accept their person.
Right.
Your person is on the land too, with you, doing as you command.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Aisha is going to get put in the ground low, ain't nobody believes this shit. Oh, she's going to be.
Also, Empress, ensure that that in your everyday speaking, that you don't accept their person. Even if you're just having a conversation with another Moor on the phone, casually, make sure that your words state that, because the atmosphere and the energies and the frequencies can still hear.
Okay.
Okay. And then for those who here, I wanted to finish reading B. A party may join two claims, even though one of them is contingent on disposition of another. They use the word disposition here, but then they talk about relative substantive rights, because they're talking about the nature. It says, in particular, a plaintiff may state a claim for money and a claim to set aside a conveyance that is fraudulent as to that plaintiff without first obtaining a judgment for the money. In other words, setting aside a conveyance, the conveyance is the all caps. That's how things are conveyed. Okay? Mm-hmm. Money is conveyed by all caps, or even in capitis diminutio minima as well.
Mm-hmm.
Moors, we don't have to ever use all caps if we don't want to. We can use in capitis diminutio minima, but we still have to know that it's not there in capitis diminutio minima either. It's ours. And we have to prove that we know that with each demonstration. So the fiduciary affidavit, and then an attorney in fact document, memo affidavit, form affidavit. Okay? Will prove that you know that they don't own your all caps, they don't own your in capitis diminution, they don't own any names except the ones they created. That's coming out from their system. Okay. That's how you come out of their system. Okay. And then just one moment. And then, one last thing that I would like to show you about that. See, these types of demonstrations, like the one that we just did, you're never going to see a court jester talking about that. It's not. We've already, it took liens, court actions, and levies in order to get that, to unveil our subjects and to know that they are not corpses and corporations. They're subjects first.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me show you one other thing too, Empress, where they get, or where they got all that they do, they got it from us. Okay. Let me see. What's going on here? Let me make sure my whatchamacallit is still. Oops. Okay, there it is. Let me just show you where they got a lot of that stuff from. Just one moment. Because see, again, we thought that some people have thrown the biblios out. We say don't throw it out because it's a trust document that we hold them to, just like we hold them to the Constitution. So here, this is Job, the 32nd chapter, verse 21 and 22. The reason these two verses are in Job or Job is the ancestors were trying to tell us, if you have a job, let me not accept any man's person, neither let me give flattering titles unto man. That means they're not judges, they're not any of that. If I were to go out and get a job, let's just say if I were to go out and get a job, I would never call anybody on the job manager or boss, because I know I'm my manager and my boss. And the first thing I would do is get it according to my own documentation. It says, for I know not to give flattering titles. In other words, we know better than that. It says, in doing so, if you give someone a title, that means that they have authority over you. And when we say someone, we're talking about subjects. Of course, we honor each other. We're not talking about each other. We're talking about subjects. If you give a corporate person a title, then they consider themselves your maker. Okay? And that's what we're saying about answering to their person. They created that thing. They made that. They didn't create it because they can't create. They just make something. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. They made their person. That means that it says in doing so, the maker of the person would soon take you away. They can throw everybody who accepts their person in jail. That's why we don't accept their person. We create our own. And then we say, okay, let's put our person in the place of the beneficiary for this benefit. No, mm-hmm. We're not going to pay taxes. We're going to get tax refunds, though.
Okay.
Because, see, what they're really showing you, Empress, is what they owe you.
Mm-hmm.
That's what that is. But you have to restate that.
All right.
And this is, again, another place where they get that from is the Biblios. They say, if we can get her to accept our person, and give us a title of the IRS, because there's not an IRS either. You know, and then, right. You know what I'm saying, Empress, and I'm a little bit passionate about it because I know who you are. I know who you are.
Okay.
You know, and you know who you are too, Empress. It's just a matter of stating it properly. And if you want to quote these scriptures, then quote them in your documentation that you've not accepted any man's person. And we took out this part about I pray you. unless we spell pray, P-R-E-Y, but we're not at war, so we left it out.
Okay.
Yeah. So they know about persons. They know who persons are. Not only is it in the Biblios, it's in the federal rules for civil procedure and all of that.
Right.
Yeah. So they know. We just have to know. Then you can claim money here. You can claim money and anything else that you want to claim. But your joinder is joining your person to you, the sovereign, and the justice and the court, not joinder of their person to you. And that's another reason why we said what we said at the beginning of this Congressional Assembly about not using their birth certificate that they created, because we're not joining that thing to us. We can create our own. We're competent to do that. Then our birth certificate that we create has our nature. It has the disposition of us. And then the substantive rights belong to us as the sovereigns.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Islam. Thank you for that question, Empress. Yeah, they're just showing you what they owe you. So you just have to claim it.
Okay.
Islam, Empress.
So we are approaching the new year, and from our previous congressional meetings, we had stated that we would reconvene the date for our national food program and our what is it called, the coupon, that part, because we had dated it for the 21st.
Yes.
So I'm just letting that be on the record that that is business that we should address.
Islam. So we've heard the results, and I've heard probably a few more results than some because I get the calls. But I know you all get the calls as well, and the things that, with regard to the program. We saw that the program worked in most cases, but every now and then there was some who needed to take the demonstration, not needed, who the demonstration called for them to move further in that demonstration. So with regard to documentation and paperwork, anyone who did the demonstration and it did not turn out the way, and you were not able to capture the benefit, that's a great term to use. You were not able to capture the benefit. Then you look at that process and the documentation that you've put on the public record and go back through your documentation and see if there's any place in your documentation where you have, what we're doing right now is important for that too. Treaty-based return positions, because we're referring them in the National Food Program, and this is key. We're pointing them to the Treasury, right? With us pointing them to the Treasury, the Internal Revenue, which is us, the Internal Revenue is how they claim the benefit. This is how the subjects pull and do the matching of the paperwork. And so what we're doing today, talking about treaty-based return positions, because I did go back into the person piece. Apparently that's really important, and we all must get that piece. That their person is not our person. Our person is our person. And so in order to even claim treaty-based return positions outside of a dead fraudulent system, you must create your own person. Because the person is the thing that's either can claim taxed or not taxed. Our person is not taxed. Even if our person got a job, our person would not be taxed. That was one of the first demonstrations that I did when I first woke up.
Islam,
Empress.
So What I was really referring to was the date on the document, because we stated that it will be expired, so-called, on the 21st. So just a vote of now it be into perpetuity, or give it another time so we'll reconvene the date.
This is what I think, and I would love to hear from the Congress. I would say let's continue to state our position with the documentation, the 8833, the 8888, because see, the 8888 is also going to state that benefit is due and entitlement is due. So I would say let's get those on the record first, and then come back and all benefits are into perpetuity anyway. We did need to revisit that one because it's a program that we put in place, because we're going to amp up programs and everything from this point. Everything goes up. We're not stopping any programs. Those, all programs must continue. We're just now putting other things, layering the processes so that there's greater benefit for everyone.
Very good. Islam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Islam.
Very good. Yeah. Oh, because for the record, I put notice because I did the notification to New York, the food stamp benefit, the benefit for all grocery stores, restaurant chains, and all those things, and the Section 8. I made that one big package, and I put all parties on notice, and so it is a benefit. No, I didn't. Because any vouchers, coupons, anything like that, Delarium serves as that as well. For those who may not have a voucher or anything of that nature, they can just print some Delarium and and autograph the Delarium. And then on the there has to be documentation that goes with it. That would be their voucher. Okay. All right. Well, I'll just send it out again.
Well, Empress, just add another something to a one-page affidavit to what you've already sent that states these are the vouchers for the program at the territory. Okay. Or earthwide. Because we know that it's earthwide. Delarium is earthwide.
Yes, yes. Very good.
And that way anybody can print it. They don't have to call us, Empress. They can print it themselves. Easy peasy.
Islam, very good.
Yeah. Because sovereignty is important, that people are able to govern their estate without having to pick up the phone and say, Light, I had to wait 4 weeks for you to get me this document. Nope, print it yourself.
Right.
Or write it yourself.
Create,
That's
yeah.
Really, yes, create it.
Omnific? Isn't that the word?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Omnific is the word for the year, if you ask me.
It's an eternity for me.
Yeah. Justice Kansu, you were about to say?
I was about to say, the Delarium, as we're speaking on it, can we give this to any MOs that's not nationalized to use?
You can, but they need to know how to demonstrate it, and that's what nationality is about. They must know. You don't get to get it and be black. Because that's, again, that goes back to what we stated earlier about these statements or entries generally. You have to know who you are, or else you're falsifying, concealing, covering up, materially false. The material that you're using has to match your status. Yes. Making or using any false writing or document knowing the same to contain any materially false. When we're saying materially, or when we're talking about disposition, when we're talking about status, it is, does what you're using match you and your nature? Because all we've been saying is they're fraudulent, they're fictitious, their money is fake, it's not even real money. Well, here we go.
Copy that.
Yes, indeed. And Delarium is like we are. Delarium is it's gold receipts. It's any type of voucher, any type of stamp, any type of seal, any type of anything that is necessary or that is preferred to pass in order to get something. Delarium is that. If it calls for a voucher, Delarium will be the voucher. If it calls for because again, you're not going to give Delarium without documentation stating what it's for. The national food programs, there's a document with that, and so just giving that document by it stating what it states and us putting that on the public record is documentation in exchange for. So it's used like Delarium as well, the national food program vouchers. Islam nobility. Islam, thank you.
Islam. But just for the purpose of number 3, makes or uses any false writing or document knowing the same to contain any material, false, fictitious, or fraudulent statement or entry. Just by that alone, by we doing what we're doing, pushes them out the way and makes them any false writing or documents knowingly the same to contain any material, false, fictitious, because we are the living. And by us doing what we're doing virtuously makes them state their fraud.
Let's call it a system instead of saying them. Because then it will seem like us against them. Them who?
Okay. But you get what I'm saying, though? Because it expresses that. And it shows that the system is fraud because ours is the truth, the living.
Yes, indeed.
The more we do our work, the more we state things, the more we put things on the public record, it only exposes that fraud.
Islam, indeed. Indeed. I affirm. Islam.
Member. I just wanted to go back to that time cycle item you raised. I'm going to abstain. It's because I don't lack the knowledge base have given it that much consideration for discernment, right? But I trust this Congressional Assembly because of the knowledge I've seen, exhibited here. So whatever the Assembly decides, I'll definitely go along with it. Also,
we would ask that we honor that you will go along with what we say. We also know that heirs have the ability to know what we know because we're one. So to know for yourself is most important to us. Not just to go along to get along, and I know that's not what you're saying, but I'm saying for the sake of this conversation, we don't want anyone to go along to get along. We want everyone to go within and do their study so that they will know that what we're stating is what should be. And then we're agreeing to either agree or disagree.
Yes. I happened to hear it was a Bobby Hemmett lecture where he mentioned an Arabic text that nobody could read or decipher. So they had to go somewhere in the area of not sure exactly which part of the country, but they found a family that could decipher that text, and the time frame of that text was 2 billion years.
Wow.
So there's so much to time cycles and us being here. So I just give it more consideration as they say, consult the stars.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would. But if I could put one definition on the record.
Sure.
It's in Bouvier's 1856 dictionary.
Mm-hmm.
It's a session, and it reads: the ownership of a thing, whether it be real or personal, movable or immovable, carries with it the right to all that that thing produces, and to all that becomes united to it, either naturally or artificially. The doctrine of property arising from a cession is grounded on the right of occupancy. So it says the original owner of anything which receives an ascension by natural or artificial means, as by the growth of vegetables, the pregnancy of animals, the embroidering of cloth, or the conversion of wood or metal into vessels or utensils, is entitled to his right of possession to the property of it under such its state of improvement. I just wanted, because it kind of spoke to me that's kind of where we are with reclaiming our estate.
Mm-hmm.
There's been improvements on it, and so this word kind of spoke to that. This particular word spoke to.
Pauline's levies don't work. If Pauline's levies work, she'd have that Land Rover sitting.
Go ahead, nobility.
Yeah, that definition kind of spoke to us reclaiming our estate, and in some of the legal, some of his references, he's got in there more 20. So I don't know if there was a mistake made with more or some other thing, but it had more 20 as a reference. So, but
what document are you referring to that had more 20 as a reference?
This was.
I can't wait to come watch you when you get arrested and go to jail.
Bouvier's dictionary, 1856. It's part of that definition. He puts in the references. Mm-hmm. Court cases, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I just want to put that on the record. Islam. How you?
Thank you, nobility, for that. That's another key. With regard to our estate and the reclaiming thereof.
Islam.
You know, there have been improvements made on the estate. If you and improvements just depends on how you look at it. Some people see the domiciles and things that we currently are in or are at as improvement. The more I do this work, I'm grateful for all that we have all experienced. I see our ancient temples as the improvements. I want to see our ancient temples everywhere. I know they're still here. And no fiat economic system can even handle our temples and what our temples do. Okay. I want to make sure that I can see Islam nobility.
I didn't mean to interfere with your train of thought, your flow. I looked some months ago. We looked up the word more, more. It's a French word. It relates to marshes, land, minerals. So it's not a mistake that was put in there. More. Yeah. I just wanted, just share that with the brother. Islam.
Yes,
Thank
indeed.
you.
Islam. Oh, that's good, nobility. And that also lets us know that words that sound the same, generally they are. That's still another part of that quote unquote twin, supposed twin principle, where there's a mimic thing out there running around trying to pretend to be us. That's their person, not our. That's a dead person and not a living person. You know. Same thing with the synonyms. You know, there's a spelling, and it just depends on who's casting the spell. That's how come we can spell words any way we choose to spell them. And however we spell them is what it means. And that's where ancient English comes in at. Ancient English comes from within each one of our souls. You know. So if you're spelling things and something says put an E in there, and that's not how you learned it in school, that's your ancient spirit saying, okay, put an E in there, because then when you go and look at old writings, you're going to see that same spelling that you created on your documentation. And then you'll know that, okay, that's where that word comes from, besides in our spirit. So Islam for that. Are there any other questions, comments, wisdom from this grand Congressional Assembly?
Islam.
Islam, Empress.
I just wanted some clarification because I know various people listen and view your videos, and this is something I experienced earlier today. And so with that being said, seeing that we are there are benefits that's attached to our estates. It was mentioned in another circle. You know, we know that we should not be mixing or blending the public and the private. And
who said that?
Who
said you can't
said in another circle earlier today.
Where did that come from in the law?
There are certain circles that really emphasize that.
If they can show it in the law, and this is the thing about that, Empress, even if they could show it in the law, if we choose to change that, we are the law, so we can change it whenever we get ready.
Okay.
We do that a lot.
Yes. So just for clarification, like I was saying, you know, for anyone else that listens. So it was, you know, they were making the reference that you don't mix the private and the public. And so they were saying also that if you are, which I know it's a part of your estate, if you are, say, you're disabled and you're on disability, that should be something that should be protected within a trust, wouldn't it? So that, you know,
the benefit can be, yeah.
Yeah,
the benefit can be.
Because it was being said that, you know, accepting disability, that's mixing the private and the public, and you're not supposed to do that. But that's a part of your benefit of your estate, and so in order to not jeopardize anything, I guess you put that within a trust and continue on. Would you agree?
Here's what I will say. I'm the only reason I'm saying I don't necessarily agree is because there are no hard and fast things that there's no hard and fast way to do public and private, unless you're going into commerce. Disability can be classified as commerce because there's in the last era there was fiat coming in for disability, so even that was commercialized. In this new era that we're in or that we are, public and private, they're still one and the same. They're still one and the same. Just like in the last era, everything was corporate. Everything would anytime you went into a fake court in the last era, they just commercialized everything. They capitalized everything. In this era that we have created, it's going to be however we state that it is. Okay, we're going to look at what was done previously, the rules, the codes, the statutes, the laws, but then ultimately we get to say how that's carried out. What we just showed about public and private, Empress, is stated right here on the screen. Public and private. Let me not accept any man's person. Let me being the private or the sovereign, accept any man's person. Person is the public. So you don't accept someone else's description of you as the public. Your private should not accept that because it's going to stick and apply. What this is really saying about public and private is that they're really one. They operate together. They co-mand. They cooperate. That's really what a person is on our side. A person on our side is a cooperation. On that side, it was a corporation, which is a misspelling of cooperation. So they work together. Pauline Denise Ritchie, my person, has to do exactly as I command, period. And no one else can state whether they're being public or private. If I'm doing a one-on-one private something, that's still my person. I can use that person in one-on-one private transactions and exchanges if I choose to, or public. Now, they do say that there's some liability, but what liability does a sovereign have when there's credits going back and forth everywhere? Whereas over on the other side, in that last era, everything was a liability. If you accepted the tax refund, they had the right to keep taxing you. So that's not a benefit. If you accepted the paycheck, they could throw you in jail when they got ready. That's not a benefit. Everything was a liability. So there was no difference between public and private over there. And we're seeing that now, where the actors are saying, I just heard yesterday, the actor Donald Trump was saying that on Tuesday he's going to be arrested. That's what he said. That this coming Tuesday, on our New Year, he's going to be arrested. Well, to me, when we look at that and to think about public and private, publicly, he was acting as if he was a president. And the arrest is supposed to be for something that's some actions that are, it could be one or the other. It could be a public action done privately or a private action done publicly. There's still liability there for them. For us, there's no liability. It's all credit. Even if someone took me, and I won't say me, but my person, if they took my person to court, our courts, and my person, Pauline Denise Ritchie, had to pay 5,000 more sovereign dollarium in gold. Okay, my person would pay that if I did something and I offended someone in the way that the law says don't do that. And I did that, and I paid them on my books. Even though the money went out of my estate, I can claim it as still as a benefit on my books because it's shown on the books as movement of money, either in or out of the trust. It's still gold moving. You know how sometimes in the past the corporates would say, well, no one, they didn't pay their bill because they went bankrupt, so we just going to do a charge off on that. So with the corpses, it was still a credit either way. They didn't care whether people got evicted and foreclosed on, because it was still a credit for them, supposedly, in that system that they were acting. So, people can say that, yes, there's a difference between public and private, and you're not supposed to mix the public and the private. We use our all caps to get things and do things, but at the end of the day, the all caps has the nature of the sovereign. And so the sovereign speaks at any time and invokes jurisdiction at any time and says, wait a minute, things aren't going to go but so far with the sovereign because I'm a sovereign.
And you're a fucking fool if you believe any of this bullshit, because it's so fucking hilarious. None of it's real. You're a...
And so, for the sake of order, we do make the distinction. For the sake of order, we make the distinction between the all caps and the in capitis diminutio minima and the sovereign. For the sake of order, yes. So we're not saying that they're wrong when they say, oh, there's a difference between public and private. There is a difference between public and private. We know that. That is true. So we're not saying that they're wrong. What we are saying, though, is ultimately at the end of the day, the sovereign gets to determine what happens with their person. We have created an obligation to one another just because we've decided to exist together. So I'm not going to go around stepping on people's toes and not, taking responsibility for that according to the law. It's kind of like running a red light. Running a red light is not against the law. But for the sake of order, we don't do it.
Islam.
If
I may, also to add on to about the public and private aspect, because according to their 14th Amendment, it says that a debtor cannot challenge a debt. And so when you are thinking that you are a debtor and trying to, establish credit, you are a debtor trying to challenge a debt. And that would be, essentially trying to mix public and private. But when that's in the debtor system, but when you're in the true living system of the true credits, then there is no necessarily mixing of the public and private, because it's all credits and you are the true creditor, the true government, and the sovereign has the special purpose vehicle to do commerce and to do business, and having the sovereign, commanding that special purpose vehicle to do as it commands. So it is all dealing with credits. There's no catching up and thinking that, oh, I might be dealing with debt or that and so on and so forth. It's all credits. The other system was debt and debt, but people thought that they could do credit, which would be, challenging a debt. So that's where the possibility of, private and public, essentially. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
That's fine.
So there is a difference, too, between me doing the sea salt business and me getting things from my household. There's a difference. Not much, I can tell you that. Not much, but that's only because, as far as I'm concerned, I exist for my government, my nation, our state, our affairs. The only reason I'm here is for that.
Exactly.
It's for us, all of us.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, I get that. Some may say, well, that's great to hear, but you still need to do commerce the right way, so that if someone sues you, they don't get into your household. They don't start, they don't come for your household. Well, we're the only ones who can pierce a corporate veil. We've already done it. And so the corporate veil, the Biblios talks about the veil being rent in two when the master returns, which is all of us. The corporate veil, I don't have a corporate veil. There's no corporate veil for me. I am who I am. I'm doing honorable business. Honorable business with even the sea salt and things like that. There's no corporate veil. So if they want to continue that narrative of, the difference between public and private, they can do that. If they want to do it, that's fine. They're sovereign. They can do whatever they want. For me, there's any business that I do, the business, first of all, is going to be, it's always honorable, always. Starting first with the medium of exchange that we use, lawful money. And then honorable business. If something is done, let's say somebody took the sea salt and, well, I won't say that because that's not going to happen. But if someone accidentally tripped over something while here at my domicile and, it was something that could have been avoided or whatever, I don't know. I really don't even know how to put that, because there are certain things and ways that we handle our business with each other that doesn't require a corporate veil. If I go to someone else's domicile and I fall through the floor because the floor is not, solid or whatever, I'm not going to go and sue them, because I cover me. I've always covered me. I cover me. I take care of myself. And then help them get the floor fixed or get a new domicile. Help them. That's how we did things as community together. So we are and we will, for example, the IRS documentation and things. We're using our person to do that. We're using our person to do that. As trustees, we're using our fiduciary office to do that. And so the office is there. The fiduciary office would be the responsible party. I'm that office is me, but the office itself would be the responsible party. Whatever the responsibilities, the list of responsibilities for that office. And so is that public or private? Both. Both. We proved that there's no difference really between public and private just with our lien process. Because we were holding persons personally liable for what they did in a fake office by creating a fake office. That's treason. Liens took care of that. Levies now take care of the property that's here, the improvements on our land, etc. So that's everything that we knew conceptually from the last era is able to be edited by us and published and used. And different jurisdictions can be invoked at any time. Our honorability being the basis, our honor being the basis for everything we do. They needed, in that last era, they needed corporate veils and things like that. They needed that because they were not honorable in any of the things they did. So For those who want to use that system or that precept, rather, that precept, not the system, but the precept, they can use that, and guess what? We'll honor that for them. If more say, I don't want to mix public and private, we honor that because you said it. For us, we just use the law coming and going, period.
Wow, Islam.
Yeah, Islam.
What I love about this as I'm sitting back, absorbing all this knowledge, a thought came to my mind. Many of us have never grown up under gold-backed currency. We've always, like you said, the prior era. We grew up in the debt, private and public, all that language. So the wonderful thing is that we're learning now how this gold-backed currency, how it really works. Because as you said, and many others said, there's no debt. There's no debt at all. It's a mindset change for so many of us. And I love it. I love it. And everybody here should love it. Because who wants to live in debt? I don't want to live in debt anymore. No one on this call wants to live in debt. No grandmother, no grandfather, none of us. Because a lot of us are grandparents. Islam.
Islam. You know, the word debt has a different meaning. It has a different definition on this side over here. It's a word. It just doesn't mean what it meant that last era. And we are in transition. See, after a while, Morris, no one's going to be sending you a bill. They're going to be sending notifications. They're going to be sending, there will be bills for exchange, but it won't be a bill that says if you don't pay this, you know, the lights are going off and you going to jail. That's not a bill to me. That's a holdup. That's robbery. You know, but in the interim, we're just exhibiting competence at the processes, and also showing that we know we're the sovereigns and we are the only ones who can deal with debt in any way. See, in the last era, they kept saying, you know, this is the national debt, and you know, we're going to raise the debt ceiling and all of this kind of stuff. They never did any of that because the stuff is still that debt was still there for them. During this transitionary period, all we're doing is stating that we know how to competently deal with anything doing businesses or previously doing businesses debt. You know, there's some things that are that come in the mail that I'm dealing with, where of course I'm going to demonstrate my status, and every little letter counts. Every little thing counts. I know this is a test. I know the estate is ours. I know that. I know that nothing can be taken from us unless we assent for it to be taken from us. And we don't assent to any of that. So we just demonstrate. We're not going to abjure is not the right word. We're not going to abhor testing. We're going to deal with the testing. And be ourselves the whole time, period. So, you know, and at any time we can invoke this way, and then if we want to navigate this way, we'll navigate this way, and then go back this way. It is all about navigation, and that's why we're not going to denigrate anybody or say, oh, that's wrong. The only thing that we say that we state not to do because we're the state is don't be that dead state. Be the living state. That's the only thing we say. You know. So It's all good. Moors who wanna say, oh, there's a difference between public and private Islam. So be it for you. And so be it for me if I choose to operate that way, depending on what we're doing. The beauty of sovereignty is that we can do it however we want to do it. And as we come together and continue unifying, we then say, okay, how are we going to go about doing business with one another? Okay, well, let's vote on this and vote on that. Let's do it this way or do it that way. And then leave room for modification down the road. Always leave room for modification down the road if we so desire. And that way, if there's any, I won't say conflict because that's not the right word. If there's any disagreement, we take it to our court and we deal with it. However we choose to deal with it. And then we say, okay, this went to court. This was the outcome based on the law. Let's make sure that this law is published so that we don't have to keep going to court for the same thing over and over and over. Add changes to it, make changes, keep it the same, modify it, look at what was done last era, because there may be something we can use in those processes, codes, and statutes that we can edit and create for our own state. So for those who want to do commerce, I think it's a great idea that whoever is saying that, because then we know that if we're doing commerce with them, they're going to do commerce this way. We tend to be kind of fluid. In the Biblios, that's called going in and out of the temple at will. We're fluid. However, whatever we want, our Moors, whatever we want. The veil is rent in two, and access is granted. And we've granted that to ourselves. So, corporate veil, no corporate veil. We don't do a corporate veil. Especially not someone else's person. Because thou shalt have no other gods before you, Moors. You're not supposed to have any other gods. And that's all capitalized gods, and capitis diminutio minima gods, and lowercase gods, and however else. Our gods are supposed to be the ones we create and state, which is us. So, with that being stated, we're never putting a person in front of us. A person is a tool. A hammer is not something that I'm putting in front of me saying I'm this hammer. It's a tool that I use. Pauline Denise Ritchie in all capital letters is not something I'm putting in front of me. It's a tool I'm using. I'm still going to be the God that I am for everything that I do. This is the face that will be there. And I will use the tools that we created to do whatever we choose to do, to access different parts and portions and areas of the estate. Our estate is multidimensional. So, with that being stated,
Islam, are we going to vote on something? Because that was a language.
Yeah. Or we can give it some thought for our next meeting about the year. I think we should do it now, just because we're a few days off of our new year. I think for the new year, we should call forth the sun and the moon calendar and have them meet the 2023 calendar. Do we have Islam? Anyone else concur? We have to have at least 2 witnesses so that we can then vote on the measure that's put on the floor.
Islam, I concur.
Islam, I concur.
Thank you.
Antigua Day, New York Territory, I concur.
Islam. So the concurrence is we agree to vote on the motion and the movement. I won't call it a motion, I'll call it a movement. The movement that's been placed on the table with regard to, and I might get a little emotional here, because I know in my spirit that that's the breach that happened, that the calendar, the timelines got separated, and we're going to move ourselves up 580 years today based on the outcome of this vote. So if we could take a look at the list of appellations here on the, and we'll just go in this order. Let me just make sure that our housekeeping is done before we start. Okay, the vote that we are about to take is to move the sun and moon calendars from 1442 and 1443 up 580 years to 2023 and 2024. So on the sun calendar, it's 2024. On the moon calendar, it would be 2023. And the moon calendar and the sun calendar are the same as, and actually they would be the same as 2023. All in favor, or actually however you choose to vote, please state that for the record, and we'll just look at this list and start with Ronnie Graham. Your vote. Just one moment. Justice Ronnie. Let me just make sure that I can. Islam Justice. We can barely hear you, Justice. I hear you saying something. We can barely hear you, though. Justice Ronnie, are you there? Okay. There's a number here, 79, ending in 7976. State your appellation and your vote. Okay. There's a number, and I'm gonna mute the other lines until we come to your appellation. Justice Ronnie, we could not hear you. Just one moment. Let me make sure. Okay. The number ending in 6508. State your appellation and your vote. And let me put the matter on the screen as well. Just one moment. Just one moment. Okay. There is a number ending in 5077. State your appellation and your vote. Okay, I'm beginning to think it's probably better to let people just vote. Yeah, let's do that. All in favor of changing the year to 2023 to match, changing the ancient calendar to match the year 2023. It'll be 2023 on the moon calendar, and it'll be 2024 on the sun calendar. Is that correct? Is that, or will they'll all be the same? 2023. Sun, moon, and sun calendar. Let me just take a look. Okay. Okay, I see in the chat. All in favor, if you would just *6, because I'm not getting the responses at all. I'm not hearing yay or nay when we try and go down the list like that, but because I think people so we'll just go ahead and take a vote. All in favor, please vote.
Islam, Angelica Yvette Dobbs Bay, New York Territory. I vote yay.
Islam, Kahusia, Yahuti Ba'in William Shalil, Manhattan Territory. I vote yay.
Islam, Kilima Bay, Dominican Republic. Yay.
Islam, Abasi Talif Bay, Land of Flowers. Yay.
Islam.
Islam, Michael Nwa McGee Bay, Mississippi Shore. Islam, yay.
Peru, Land of Flowers, Howard Victor Lloyd Yale. Yay.
Islam.
Islam, Chief Justice Malik Akil Bay, Illinois Territories. Yay.
Reef Bay,
Empress Aisha,
Territory. Yay.
Empress Aisha, Michigan Republic. Yay.
Islam.
Islam, Willis Smith, Mississippi Territory. Yay.
Islam, Konsu Khatib Ang Bay, UK Territory. Yay.
Islam, I think Cumberland Bay, Territory. Yay.
Islam.
Islam, Tonis Alajar Bay, Khalifa Territories. Yay.
Islam.
Islam, Wine and Friends, Canaan, London Territory. Yay. Islam, Abina, Adams L, Florida Territory. Yay.
Islam.
Islam,
Islam.
Noble Timothy Ashan Bay, Virginia Territory. Absolutely.
Islam.
Islam. Islam.
Islam.
Michael Nwa McGee Bay, Mississippi Territory. Yay.
Islam. We got your vote. We heard, yeah. In the chat, it's Justice Vania. Yay. I'm just referring to the ones that who have not spoken. Chief Justice Lord Amon Murr. Yay. Chief Justice Light Tajiri Bay. Yay. Islam.
Empress Helen Crowder L, Mississippi Territory. Yay.
Islam. Thank you, Empress. Justice Maurice Lloyd L. in the chat says yay. Okay, are there any nays? Any who choose to keep the ancient moon and ancient sun calendars in the 1442 and 1443 time frame? Islam. Going once, going twice. Islam. We do have a unanimous vote that the ancient calendar be moved up to 2023, moon and sun, to match our commerce and our season. Therefore, we've repaired the gap in the calendars that stated that we were in the 1400s. We have moved ourselves forward 580 or so years into the present. Islam.
Wow, that's like monumental when you really think about that part, because now there's no more space in their corporate time for them to dilly-dally and play games. Like that, it's been, nature abhors the vacuum. So Mother Nature literally filled that vacuum and filled that time with the true time for space and said, there is no more void. We made it proper. We made it true. We made it correct. We casted our spell. We made it proper. We made it exact. We stated it as such, and it is done.
Yes, indeed it is. I affirm. It is done. So, Islam. This is why we came here, was to repair the breach in the calendrier, the calendar, the time. Redeem the time. We said that in our sleep in the churches, which are now ecclesias, because it's really government. Is who we really are, and that's the reason our courts were so important. We needed to repair the breach in the time continuum, because see, time is called a continuum, and we exist outside of time in our infinite capacity. In this dimension, there is time, but it needed to be put in its proper place by us. So with that being stated, I have nothing further for this Congress at this time. Does anyone have anything further for our Congress? Watch how quickly the changes happen. Watch. Just watch. Just watch.
Well done, Moors.
Islam, indeed. Indeed. And with that, peace and grand rising, Islam.
Grand rising.
Years ahead.
Grand rising, more.
Islam, peace and grand rising.
Islam.
Prosperity, grand rising.
Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Love, grand rising, boys.
Islam.
Grand rising.
Happy New Year coming, grandmas.
Islam.
We did it. Islam.